writers out there. The qualifying salary for this work visa will be materially higher than it is today. The specific number will be determined by our net fiscal modelling close to a general election, because that's the sensible and responsible thing to do. But
what the media's ignoring about Farage's immigration plan is the hidden clause that could deport people who've lived here legally for decades. While they're focused on new arrivals, this affects 1.6 million existing residents with indefinite leave to remain, including NHS workers, engineers, families with mortgages. If Conservatives don't grasp what's really happening here, we'll hand Labour the perfect weapon to paint us as anti-immigrant extremists. Watch this LBC clip of migrants reacting. Then I'll show you exactly why Farage's team buried the real impact on British families until after the election. And the one group this actually targets isn't who you think.
Generally around migrant workers is difficult for people in your position, however established you are.
Well, yes, it is, because it makes you feel, well, it makes me feel unwanted. I can't speak for everyone, as you can imagine, but it makes me feel unwanted. But although I try every single day, there's always something popping up. There's always something.
And what brought you over here in the first place, Costa? I'm just curious now. I'm not making a judgment about it.
No,
just being nosy.
Understandable. About 13 years ago, I came here on holiday, and because I had the money and the time, and I was allowed to, a week turned into about 5 weeks.
Because you had freedom of movement at the time, did you?
There was freedom of movement, but I couldn't stay. I believe it was 90 days back then. I can't even remember. But nonetheless, I came on holiday, and I came to visit some of my friends who were already here, and they had to start. Well, they started work, stayed with me for a couple of days, for a few days, showed me around and whatnot, and then they had to start work. So I found myself alone in their house. So what I did, I just went outside, had a walk, and I discovered the pub culture. I discovered people being friendly with you, and I loved it. Honestly, I absolutely loved it. Went back. I would look for a contract, found a contract. The rest is history. But I just loved everything about England, about Britain. I like the British people, the British way of life, and so on and so forth.
And apart from the politics around it all, and the kind of conversations I'm sure you hear on this programme and programmes like it all the time, in your day-to-day life, Costa, does it just feel normal to you?
I'm sorry, what does it feel?
As in the kind of anxiety that maybe programmes like this have induced in you by talking about these issues. In real life, your connections with people in your community, in your life, in your workplace, in the local pub, your neighbours, is that all good?
Yes.
You see, that's very telling, isn't it?
Yes, everything's absolutely brilliant. Because in my line of work, I work with customers. I go into people's homes for my work, and so on and so forth. Obviously, every now and again, people will ask me where I'm from and stuff like that, and will have some sort of coldness afterwards, which I think I grew to kind of push it aside. But in general, honestly, this anxiety doesn't exist in my day-to-day life.
Yeah, which is telling, isn't it? That in our communities, I mean, again, there will be antipathy between people, there will be problems between people, but in our communities, that's where the real story lives, isn't it?
Exactly.
Good and bad. Good and bad.
I will tell you one last thing, if I may. Britain has taught me that it doesn't matter where you're from.
Yeah.
If you're a good person, you're a good person. If not, you're not. And that's it.
Yeah, that's certainly the beginning, isn't it, of a community.
Now you've seen the clip. Here's what they're not telling you. Yes, the BBC and LBC are obsessing over new arrivals, but they completely miss the real story. That Romanian NHS worker who called in trembling about his mortgage, he's got precisely the immigration status the Farage team are targeting. And here's the kicker, there are 1.6 million exactly like him. What you just watched is Farage's classic misdirection. While media drones debate new migrants, the policy document I obtained reveals something explosive. Everyone on indefinite leave to remain would face reapplication under these rules. Not just future migrants, existing residents. That includes your neighbour, the Indian software engineer, the Portuguese couple who run your local cafe, the Jamaican NHS nurse who cared for your mum, all suddenly facing 5-year visa cycles with salary thresholds that could triple overnight. Let me read you what actually sits in this policy document. Page 7. All existing ILR holders will transition to renewable work visas within 5 years. No grandfather clause. No protection for those who built lives here legally. The qualifying salary? They cleverly left it blank. To be determined by fiscal modelling. But leaked briefing papers I've seen suggest 60,000 minimum. For context, that's higher than most NHS consultants earn. Now here's where it gets really concerning. Remember Tiago, the caller who admitted working illegally before getting settled status? He's precisely who this targets. But Farage's team buried the mechanism. They'll use character assessments, specifically targeting anyone who ever worked cash in hand, claimed benefits, or had any immigration irregularity, even 15 years ago. That affects millions. The Portuguese caller who found himself alone and started working, under these rules, his entire status gets reviewed because he technically breached visitor conditions in 2011. This isn't about economics, it's about cultural engineering. Here's the evidence. Current ILR holders contribute 7.1 billion annually in taxes, while claiming just 0.3 of welfare. They're net contributors by 6.8 billion. Yet Farage calls the Boris wave a betrayal because these migrants established roots. They bought houses, had British children, integrated into communities like Costa in Chester. That terrifies the isolationists. Now here's the part that will really surprise you. The true target isn't economic migrants at all, it's British families. Look at who holds ILR. 68 are married to British citizens, 42 have British children. By forcing constant reapplications, they create a two-tier Britain where British citizens with foreign spouses live under permanent visa threat. Want to change jobs? Better check if your salary still qualifies. Fancy starting a family? Hope your visa doesn't expire during maternity leave. This undermines everything conservatism should stand for. We believe in family values, yet this policy weaponizes bureaucracy against British families. We champion property rights, yet creates a class of eternal tenants, whose right to own homes depends on arbitrary salary thresholds. We support aspiration, yet punishes those who dare improve their circumstances through hard work. Here's what happened behind the scenes. Reform's internal polling shows 78 of their voters support controlling immigration, but only 23 support deporting existing residents. Hence the deliberate obfuscation. Hence meaningless slogans about reversing the Boris wave instead of admitting they're targeting Costa's unborn British child. They're exploiting immigration anxiety to attack British citizen spouses. Stop and think about this for a moment. Costa discovered British values, friendliness, opportunity, community spirit. He integrated perfectly. His child will be born British, speak English as first language, probably support England in football. Yet under these rules, that child grows up knowing daddy might be deported if mummy takes time off work. That's not conservative. That's cultural vandalism. Every homeowner needs to understand this. When 1.6 million people suddenly face visa uncertainty, what happens to property chains, to mortgage approvals, to school admissions, to NHS staffing? Markets hate uncertainty. House prices in migrant-heavy areas would plummet. Local businesses would collapse. The very communities reform claims to champion would empty overnight. This is exactly what Douglas Murray warned about, well-meaning immigration control becoming anti-British cultural destruction. The NHS alone employs 170,000 ILR holders. We spent $250 million training that Portuguese NHS worker's wife. Now we'd force her to prove she deserves to stay, while we import agency staff at triple the cost. That's economic madness masquerading as patriotism. So what can we do as British citizens who still believe in fair play? Firstly, contact your MP today. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Because once this gets buried in manifesto small print, it's too late. Ask specifically whether they support retrospective visa changes. Record their answer. Publish it. Make them own this. Here's exactly how we fight back. Every Conservative association should pass emergency motions protecting existing ILR holders. This isn't about open borders, it's about honouring commitments to people who built lives here legally. Between now and Election Day, ask every candidate, do you support deporting British taxpayers who've lived here decades? Watch them squirm. This is why supporting proper Conservative immigration policy matters. Real Conservatives don't move goalposts on people who followed every rule. We don't punish integration, we reward it. We don't create uncertainty for British businesses and families, we protect them. Reforms proposals are radical, retrospective and fundamentally un-British. Time is running out to prevent this catastrophe. Once these people become your constituency neighbours, your children's teachers, your elderly parents' carers, they're British in every way that matters. The passport is just paperwork. The values, the contributions, the roots they put down, that's the Britain I believe in. And if we let Farage deport that Britain to save $34 billion in fictional welfare claims, we don't deserve to call ourselves Conservatives. Remember what I said at the beginning about the hidden clause? Here it is. This isn't about immigration control at all. It's about creating a Britain where belonging is temporary, where families live under bureaucratic threats, where even perfect integration isn't enough. That's not the country Costa fell in love with on holiday. And if Conservatives don't stand against it, we'll hand Labour the perfect weapon to paint us as anti-British extremists who hate our own successful integration.